In this episode, we'll be speaking about a familiar topic in a different way. We'll be speaking about how to go from not having the job that you want to getting the job that you want, and the process through which you can get from point A to point B.
Hello everyone, my name is Zoila Reyna, founder and CEO of Public Health Hired, and you are listening to the Public Health Insight podcast.
Before we move on, it is important to note that the views expressed in this podcast are our own and do not necessarily represent any of the agencies or organizations we work for or are affiliated with.
So essentially, you know how we always have these episodes and we respond to questions and concerns about, am I doing my resume properly? What should my cover letter look like? And how do I do good in a job interview? What we're aiming to do in this episode, with the help of a very special guest, is to put all the pieces together, all the way from knowing the job that you want, focusing on that job, and using a very specific method to get you in a position to get a job offer and negotiate your salary and land that job. So we're looking to do things a little bit different for this episode.
Yeah, that's really exciting, and I heard really good things about this upcoming guest. Even pulling from this person's website, there's a bunch of testimonials, and I'm going to share one with you right now. Blank really is the GOAT. She speaks the language of public health. Damn, that's some good praise.
What does that mean? What do you think? Why do you think speaking the language of public health is important in the context of helping someone or coaching someone get jobs within that field?
I think it's important in a couple of ways, but the most important way that I see just off the bat is when we're talking about different careers and industry-specific jargon, you really need to have that information in order to navigate specific environments. And in this case, if we're talking about public health and you're able to incorporate that industry-specific jargon, information, and concepts alongside with this public health career advice and coaching, that's a match made in heaven when it comes to public health and job searching and securing a job in an interview. So that's why I think it's important when this person's able to speak the language of public health.
And they're able to speak the language of public health because they've worked in public health, right? So not only do they know the right things to say, they also know how it works. So if you're in a position where you're making hiring decisions and you've seen that process play out in different contexts. So even within public health, there are different contexts as well. There's NGOs, there's government, and then within government, you have different levels. You have the local, municipal, state, federal, provincial, and each of them might have different ways of going about hiring and different things that they're looking for in different candidates. So having someone with that background enhances their ability to provide you the right guidance in your journey for pursuing the career that you like. So without further ado, shall we get onto it, LaShawn?
Let's go.
All right. My name is Gordon, if you don't remember, and I'm your host for this episode, along with my co-host and sometimes best friend, LaShawn Benedict, and a public health expert and career coach. Zoila Reyna has her master's in public health from UC Davis and over 16 years experience in public health within state government, nonprofits, philanthropy, and healthcare. She's an expert in workforce development, strategic planning, stakeholder management, scaling best practices, and implementing interventions for underserved populations. While she works full-time for a healthcare company, she also owns Public Health Hired, which mentors hundreds of colleagues across the country and the globe about how to get hired in public health. To date, she has helped her mentees and followers secure over 120 job offers at reputable public health companies. Zoila, welcome to the Public Health Insight podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to join you and LaShawn and your audience.
Absolutely. And before you came on, LaShawn and I just highlighted the importance of having someone. I know we're going to talk about resumes, cover letters, and those are sort of discrete components of someone's efforts to get to where they want to get to in their career. But there's a lot more around that scaffolds that, and I think you bring a unique perspective. So really excited to tease that out.
Excited to share more about just Public Health Hired and the Hired Method. And I love that your podcast is for public health professionals, all about public health. So hopefully they'll find this informative. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Now, we're going to talk about Google Maps. You have your GPS ready?
Me? Yes.
You have it? You have it ready?
Yeah.
Just kidding. Not a real GPS.
Oh, okay.
So at Public Health Insight in our podcast, we like to, ask a question about a career journey in the context of if it was a Google Maps. So let's visualize your career as a Google Maps for a second. And like I said, you're unique in that you've worked in public health for a while, and now you're also helping build the next generation of public health professionals, kind of showing them the light and showing them how to get to where their goals desire. So tell us about what that journey was like to get you from, I don't want to spoil too much, but, a pre-med student all the way to being a senior consultant now throughout various experiences and also starting your own company. Was it filled with twists and turns, red lights, lane closures, U-turns? What was that journey like for you?
Oh, I see. So okay, I like this. Okay, so
Right?
map
We're
it
just
out.
trying a little
Map
thing.
it out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Map it out.
There was a lot of stoplights and a lot of U-turns, but I think at the end of the day, there's something that I find common with a lot of other public health professionals, which is we had this medical interest in our background, and that's where I come from. So I run into just a lot of folks who are like, I thought I was going to be a doctor. I thought I was going to be a nurse. And so that was me at UCLA. My actual bachelor's degree is in psychology, but I was trying to do the pre-med courses, and I even had an internship at Cedars-Sinai, which is a very reputable hospital here in Los Angeles. It's where all the celebrities have their babies. That's what they're known for. And that's actually where I wanted to really test if I wanted to be in a hospital for the rest of my life. And after doing an internship for 3 years, the answer was no. It was like, I thought I would enjoy being in the medical field and, but there was just something about being inside walls, never seeing the sun, being in a lab, being in just underground that just felt so unnatural to me. And so I basically just let go of the medical school idea, and I just figured, you know what, I don't know what I'm going to do with my career. At that point, public health was not in my radar. So I just wanted to do good. I wanted to contribute. I wanted to just feel like I had a meaningful job. And so I focused on applying to nonprofits. So nonprofits are near and dear to my heart because I feel like, their mission is, a lot of their missions are for public good, right? For improving quality of life in just about any aspect. And so I ended up moving to Sacramento, where my brother lived, after college with my bachelor's degree, and simply just was like, okay, I'm going to find nonprofits, apply to food banks, apply to associations. And I basically got hired, luckily, after just a couple months of job hunting. I found my first salary job on Craigslist. That is one of I always tell folks, don't underestimate Craigslist. It's not always scams. There's some legit stuff out there. But it sounded like a scam because they wanted someone to recruit teenagers to help with tobacco retail enforcement, which meant I had to recruit teenagers to basically be little snitches or be little narcs. The kids always made fun of the position. They're like, you want me to snitch on my retail store? I'm like, no, not exactly. But yeah, we would train them. I worked with the FDA, Food Drug Administration, and some private investigators and the American Lung Association to basically manage the fines of tobacco sales to underage youth. So it was a very unique, unlike any other job. And I got to work from home. So even back in 2013, I was working from home. So it was kind of crazy that opportunity was around. I know, it was crazy. Yeah. But fast forward, I ended up, after I realized what public health was, because I was in the tobacco control world through that job, my manager, my boss was like, just go talk to the local public health department, public health. And I'm like, what's public health? I'm over here meeting with people who had their master's degree in public health, and I still had no idea what does that mean? And so over the course of 3 years, luckily with that job in particular, I was exposed to all across California, just stakeholders who work in tobacco control and prevention. And it was just like over just time, I was hit over the head with, this is what you want to do. Like public health is really your like the thing you're looking for. So it was a nice way to get my master's degree. I went to UC Davis, did their 1-year program. I tried to quit my job, but my boss was like, you do such great work. We'll work around your hours. We'll figure it out with you. And so I was so blessed that he fought to keep me. And yeah, I then just tried to grow into the government. So I've worked at CDPH since Sacramento is right there next to Davis. It's like 15 minutes away. It kind of worked out nicely that I got to work for CDPH for tobacco control and prevention. And then my sort of, I guess I wouldn't say U-turn, but hard right was when I then
hard right. We got to add that one.
To go hard right.
Okay.
And I quit my job at state government with no job prospects. And
what?
I know I was making like $80,000, and my mom was like, "What are you doing, quitting such a good paying job?" And I just was not happy. It wasn't. I know, hitting me over the head. It's not that I didn't enjoy the work. It's just my social life, I just felt like I only was there for work, and that's not what I wanted anymore. I'm like, I want to feel like I'm thriving. I didn't want to own a home there. Like there was just nothing there that was calling me anymore. And so I ended up moving to Los Angeles, being on my friend's couch and getting back on Craigslist looking for jobs. So I did find another like part-time job with the Rand Corporation through Craigslist in Los Angeles. But tobacco control was still in my background, and it was in my roots. It was what I knew. And I still kept falling into jobs in tobacco control. So I ended up working for the American Lung Association when I got back into LA. It worked out nicely because they had an opening position for program director in the LA office. So I was like, perfect. I know you guys. I know a lot of the staff here. I know what you do. So it kind of worked out nicely. And I was fast-tracked, I guess you could say, to promotion because there was just a lot of need for organization around health education in our programs. And so that was one of the best times of my life because I got to become a supervisor. I got to help with change management, strategic planning, revenue generation. So I was selling a lot of programs to hospitals across Southern California and across the state. So that was like it just was a reminder that the chance that I took from quitting my job ended up working out nicely. So, it was, in a way, it was my reward, I guess you could say, the risk I took. And fast forward, I quit that job. Another quitting. I'm known for quitting. That's not a good thing, but that's also why, I'll as folks will hear very shortly, why I really stand behind the hired methods, because the current job that I have, I got with no connections. No one knew me. I pushed myself through. I'm currently at a well-known healthcare company, and I'm a senior consultant for their community benefit department, and happy with just what I get to do around strategic planning and helping them fund initiatives across Southern California that are meaningful. And I've been with them for 5 years, and I still pinch myself. I'm like, how did I get this job? Like, I didn't know anybody. I just looking back, it was me doing the hired methods, which I know we're going to talk about a lot now, but I stand behind them for a reason because it's gotten me to where I am, and I'm now helping many people do the same. So that's kind of the trajectory of my career.
That's awesome. We can end it right now.
Yeah. That was just the perfect Google Map analogy there. So thank you for that. And Gordon and myself could relate because we were both pre-med at one time, and we started off microbiology, biology, and we found our way into public health through different ways. But we're all here now, and we're doing very interesting things. So it's so great to hear your story. But I want to dig a bit deeper because you have this awesome company called Public Health Hired. And we both know you're impacting so many different people by the services you provide. can you tell me a bit more about Public Health Hired? And also
Yes.
tell us about how creating your own business, how that's changed your life.
Oh my gosh, great question. So, Public Health Hired, even before Public Health Hired existed, it's been around for 2 years now. It'll be 2 years this month. And before then, I always loved seeing people grow. I loved working with interns. I was big on internship programs at any company that I worked at. I was always the first one to volunteer to train the next, on board and train the new people. So I would say these whispers in my career where when I was given the opportunity to role model behavior or help someone on board or coach them through something, I enjoyed that part. And I didn't really know it would all kind of roll up into what is known now as Public Health Hired. But one of my really big cheerleaders of the company of Public Health Hired, she actually used to work with me as an intern. And she reminded me, she's like, Zoila, when I was an intern for you at the American Lung Association, you helped me get my first job because you sat me down and you were like, you have to take it seriously. This is how you do your resume. This is how you do your, like, I remember editing her resume now that she reminded me, and I coached her through interviewing even back then. Like I didn't even... So, when I run into followers like that who I've actually touched their lives personally, it just reminds me that I'm doing what I've always been meant to do, which is coach and mentor and guide folks through this really nebulous, mysterious darkness of the employment process, because the mission of Public Health Hired, and I can now jump into that a bit, is really to demystify the employment process. Why is it such a mystery? Why does it take months and for some people years? I mean, one of the mentees that I recently helped get a job at New York State Department, she met me after 2 years of trying to get hired, and it took us 10 months after she worked with me. So she was going on to 3 years of getting a full-time job. She had been jumping from contract to contract, and she's like, why can't I get a full-time benefit job? So some folks out there are struggling in ways that you can't even describe, that the schools can't help you, that they have this general advice for you. They say it's all about networking. It's all about who you know. And I'm like, actually, it's about how you represent yourself. It's about how you represent yourself on paper. It's about how tied you are to the job, staying connected to the job as you're applying to each one, and really not underselling yourself, because that's usually what I run into is like 90% of folks who follow me or who hit me up and they're like, what am I doing wrong? I'm like, you're probably underselling yourself. You don't even realize you have all these skills to share. And it's learning the language of public health, learning the language of these industries. And keep in mind, in public health, as in my career, I've worked for nonprofits, I've worked for government, I've worked for even private research, I've worked for hospitals, and now I'm actually at a healthcare plan as well. They all talk about the same thing in different ways. So even if you're talking about like, food insecurity, some people think of it as like food deserts and, health and wellness. And like, there's all of these different ways that they talk about the same thing. So even on that regard, I'm trying to help folks really, you have to wake up in a way. You really have to, going back to hitting people over the head. Yes. You really have to wake up in this process of employment, of seeking jobs in a way that, I don't know, because with school, you knew what you had to do. There was a path, there was a course, right? When we're all in school, you're like, okay, you have to take this class and then this is your set graduation date. But when it comes to your employment process, it's the opposite. You don't know how long you're going to be in it. And there's no deadline. Mm-hmm. It's just until you get a job offer is the deadline. That's the goal. And that's what I've been helping folks with. So fast forward, as similar to what you, Gordon and LaShawn shared when you started this podcast, I was also in the pandemic. We were all isolated. There was no more happy hours. There was no more coffee meetups. There was no more lunch dates with your colleagues. And I recycled that time to actually just try to find folks to help, because public health was obviously in the news, on everyone's mind. It was just all of a sudden blown up. Mm-hmm. And I knew that our workforce was in demand, but yet my gut was telling me, I bet you folks still don't know how to get a job, even though there's such high demand for these jobs. Yep. And so that's how Public Health Hired started, was just, I kind of felt it. I'm like, I feel my colleagues. I have something I think we can use. You know, it's helped me across my career. And how can I make it easy for all of you to just take it and run with it? And so that's what the hired methods are.
So I know one of your mantras is basically looking for a job shouldn't feel like work.
Yes.
I one of the things I'm hearing from you is one of the contributors for that is because there's a lot of mystery around the hiring process. And if people know that, they can put themselves in a position where they can take advantage of those opportunities. So your solution for this is the hired method that you've been referencing. But I want to unpack what that means and the different components of it. But give us a bit of a high-level overview of what that is and how you embarked and discovered and packaged this method.
Sure. So the hired methods kind of, they weren't called that when I started Public Health Hired. At first, I was just trying to help folks with their resume, or if you needed help with interviews. So it was kind of piecemealed. But I was very blessed with a few followers and clients and mentees who really trusted me and were like, just tell me what to do. Tell me what to do. And over the first year, I kind of realized, you know what? I think what I need to call out is the different mindsets. So it's a different mindset for every time. Going back to your GPS idea, it is like you have to map it out in a way for yourself. Because I think the challenge I hear with a lot of just public health colleagues is that you just think you have to just go hard and just keep applying, and you just have to like be personable and friendly in interviews, when really the mindset is different for every single phase. So as I was teaching the methods to my early clients and seeing their successes, I started to notice what resonated with them. And that's essentially what hired, then I realized, really stood for was honing is H, hired, which is the step of job searching. So it's honing because you have to hone into your skills and be mindful of what you have to offer and study the key terms in a way that you never have before. So that's actually where I first start, folks, is you need to study the most common key terms in public health, and here's a free guide to help you get there. In fact, that was one of my first clients who got 2 jobs in Florida, and she had her bachelor's in public health, and it was her idea. She's like, you know what we need, Zoila? We need a guide of key terms, because you just talk about it like you know it, and I need to study it. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. We do need a guide. So because of her and just other kind of feedback like that is where the resources have been building. So honing is H. And then when it comes to the resume, it's not just about applying. It's not just about tailoring. It stands for I, for interception. So the interception, it's referring to you actually catching something, you interrupting something. So what you're interrupting is yourself against the job. So it's not enough just to tailor. You're actually trying to weave yourself, connect yourself, you're literally catching a ball in the air. Catch that job, like grab it. It's yours.
Snatch it.
Yes. Clutch it. Clutch the job. Like that's where... So to me, interception is much better description of what you're doing with your resume. And then, so that's I. And then with R in hired, it's the cover letter phase, and that's reflection. And it took me a while to try to describe the value of cover letters, because folks, I think like most of us, even in my early career, I felt like they were a waste of time. Nobody reads them. Like, what's the point? I'm just repeating myself from my resume. And the jobs that I got, I would look back at the type of cover letter I had, and it was just this different kind of writing that came out of me, where I was speaking to the hiring manager as if I was in the room. And a lot of my clients and mentees who actually get jobs tell me, even when they read their own cover letter after I've edited, they're like, "Oh my gosh, who is this person?" They're impressed by themselves again, and I'm like, "This is you." Like, so it's a way of reflecting you're like why you're the ideal candidate. There's a certain tone. So I always say cover letters are about tone, and it's about really maturity. So a lot of the errors I see on cover letters from folks who send them to me is just like, there's bullet points. They're just repeating the resume. They're just saying they're passionate and they're ready and they're excited. And it's like, no, the tone needs to be around like, you're committed to public health. Your dedication is shown through your background, like this level of confidence that needs to just be a nail, like nail it and use that nail to really tell the hiring manager you're ready, you're mature, you're ready for this opportunity. So that's R is reflection, is the cover letter. And then E for hired is embody, and that's the interview. I'm all about be the job. You are the job. So it's like the mindset now that you got the call back, now you're really going to be tested, right? So it's one thing to study the job and tailor your resume and do the cover letter, and you have time to do that. But can you do fast fire questions and speak the language that the company wants you to speak? And you have to really embody the job. And so the technique that's behind the E is called Total Recall interview prep. And so that also kind of came up from how I was just telling folks, how do you prepare is you recall in totality your experience against the job, and you journal and you go crazy with the details, and you lift up as much as you can, even if it was paid, unpaid work, things that were not even on your resume you can bring up on interviews, which is shocking to people. Yeah. So to me, it's total recall, because you're really bringing your whole self to the table in a way that you're embodying the job. And then finally, D is easy. That's the dollars. Let's talk about money. You got through HIRE. Let's talk that money. So that's salary negotiation. So yeah, that's the next level. But by that point, you've already gotten the job. So it's like, to me, that
home stretch.
Yeah, home stretch. You've already done it. You're hired. So that's hired. Yeah.
Wow. No, that's lovely. Thank you for breaking that down, because you're right. I haven't really thought about each phase requiring a different mindset. But when you break it down like that, it really does, because each of these different letters represent a different mindset that you can take, and you have to really hone in on to optimize that unique process. So Thank you for sharing that. And I promise we're going to go into more details for each of those letters. But before that, I want to go into our Insight Blitz segment. Are you ready?
Okay. Yes, I'm ready.
All right. Okay, so welcome to our rapid fire segment called Insight Blitz, where we ask you questions or read some statements, and you will provide your brief answers or responses. Are you ready?
I think so. Let's do it.
All right. So what is your favorite thing to do with Gio in your spare time?
Oh, my son, Gio?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, lately he's been having me play trains with him, which I guess he enjoys more than I do. But honestly, I've been enjoying watching him just contribute to the house. He's now 4 years old, and anything he sees me doing, he actually loves cooking with me, which is refreshing. So we spend time in the morning to make breakfast. He loves to make French toast stars, for example. But I guess I'm just really surprised at how much he wants to just help his mommy, and I'm so lucky to have that kind of son. But yeah, he's kind of I would love for him to be a chef, to be honest. I would be like, oh my gosh, I would love for you to own restaurants so mommy can eat really good for the rest of her life. But yeah, he and I really connect a lot during cooking, and he wants to stir and he gets mad when I stir, and I'm like, okay. so yeah, I definitely let him help me around the kitchen and around the house. So I enjoy that.
Wonderful. What is your favorite way to stay up to date with public health news?
Oh my gosh, I get it from so many ways. I guess I do follow a couple podcasts, but mostly it's a lot of YouTube. I do a lot of Face the Nation on Sundays or Meet the Press. So you do get some public health through there, just from the weekend updates. But yeah, just if it's not the podcast, it's just my regular news. But I watch YouTube because my son takes over our TV. So YouTube is kind of it.
You lost the kitchen. You lost YouTube.
I know. Hi, Gio.
Hey, Gio.
Oh.
Look who made an appearance.
Gio.
Oh.
I'm going to be on the computer for a minute, okay? Are you helping Papa? Okay, go help Papa. Are you okay? Yeah. Okay. You want to say hi?
Hi, Gio.
He's now
Gio, we're gonna need some cooking advice. LaShawn needs some
Yeah,
cooking
I need some
advice for
cooking
real though.
advice.
I just told him about your French toast. Now he's like, who are you talking to, Mom? Okay, go help.
Gio, you could really help LaShawn.
Yep, I agree.
Go help. Go help. All right, he's fine.
Our first special guest for our Inside Blitz.
Yeah,
segment.
LaShawn,
I
you're
love
gonna
that.
have to pay. You're gonna have to pay for that cooking advice.
Yeah,
LaShawn.
I do.
I
I do.
know.
Fresh French toast doesn't come for
I
free.
need those stars.
I think he heard us. He heard us. Yeah. He's like, do you need me?
All right. So, true or false? A master's degree with the focus on public health is increasingly becoming more required to be competitive in the public health job market.
True or false? A master's, yes. A master's in public health is becoming more competitive. I talk to folks who have their bachelor's, and keep in mind, you don't have to have your bachelor's in public health to start your work in public health. I meet a lot of folks, including myself, who just started off by kind of stumbling on it. So it's nice if you have your bachelor's in public health, but the biggest change in my career, and when I see others do this, is their master's in public health. And that also unlocks jobs that pay you $75,000 and over here in the United States and just across other places. So it's also more return on your investment, I guess. You have more opportunity across your career. But yeah, I think if the question I get more is like, do I need to do a concentration in EPI, a concentration in health education, a concentration in policy? And there's some caveats to that. I think if you wanted to do a concentration in EPI, then yes, that's going to be your career track. Versus if you try to not do, like if you don't have a concentration in EPI and then you try to join EPI like jobs, it's a little harder for you to get those. So there's only a couple exceptions, but in general, it doesn't really matter what concentration you have. As long as it's public health, then that's fine. I also, the content that I help with, the tips that I give folks also are from backgrounds in public administration, health administration, healthcare services. So it's not just master's in public health, but just a master's degree in a related field would be enough. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
True or false? My job offer will be taken away from me if I don't accept the first offer.
No. That it will not be taken away from you, and you should actually... No, you should actually negotiate. You should always negotiate. You should always have, I think people are afraid to negotiate or feel like they have to settle for the first thing that came at them. And this is normal. If you've never really been out there hustling and then you realize it takes 8 months to get just one offer, you're terrified. You're terrified of negotiating, so it's normal, but I say it's still worth asking for just a little more. Just test the waters. It's not worst case they say no, you can't have that much money, and let us know if you still want the job or not, but they won't take the job from you. No. And lately I've had really strong followers who feel so confident in using the hired methods, they're declining job offers. And that's
wow,
really, yes. I've had a couple of my recent stories where like, I said no to that. That's not what I'm looking for. It's not enough for me. So I'm like, power to you. Yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Should you reapply to jobs that have been reposted?
Yes. Yes, because yes, if you want it, it's if you want it, right? So there has been some instances with my mentees where they saw the job that they applied to, and then the second time they got called in for an interview. So you don't have to. It's not like a hard, fast rule. But if you really want it and you're just not sure what their hiring process, because companies are messy. They're just messy in the background. And it's like, it's the best description I have is like, you don't want to know what's happening in the kitchen. Like that's the companies, they're in the kitchen and they are going to present to you this nice, beautiful meal. But like, you don't see like the animal they had to kill and like the blood and like all the cooking in the background. So it's messy in the kitchen with these companies.
List one important trait of being a resilient job seeker.
Perseverance. Just perseverance and not letting it get to you. I know I actually, a lot of my followers get really depressed and feel really, rejection, it's like rejection in dating. It's sadly very similar. Like you can only go on so many first dates and feel like just you can't handle that much rejection, but just know that you're worthy, know that there's the right company out there for you, just like there's a right partner out there for you, and you just kind of keep going on first dates, keep putting yourself out there. Perseverance.
I like that. Dating advice and job seeking advice
Yes.
all in one.
I know. Next thing you know, I'm gonna be a love coach.
There it is. There it is.
Transferable skills, right?
Transferable skills, I know.
And the last question of the Insight Blitz segment: what is the most surprising thing that you've learned from coaching people through your business?
Just shocked at how lost folks are at the beginning, and how I still don't even know why, because I know I experienced this, why everything we've learned at school doesn't translate easily into finding a job. Because here we are talking about public health all day long in classes, right? About like, here's some successful interventions and programs you implement, and here's some best cases and policy and best practices that are used across different disciplines. But yet when it comes to talking the language of public health in order to secure a job, there's just this major gap. And I don't know why, if that's what we went to school for, is like, you're supposed to be able to understand like capacity building and technical assistance and strategic planning. And yet it just doesn't click until you actively study it in a different way for job searching. So that's, I don't know if I'll ever know the answer to that. So
it's like you get prepared under the assumption that you don't have to go out and find the job to make that impact. So the first part is missing, but then the first part is necessary to do the second part. If that makes sense.
Yeah. It's, I feel like, how do I say this? Your degree is a ticket to compete.
Right.
But it does not guarantee the job.
Right.
Or
how to compete.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just the ticket. You just get the ticket. That's it. But whether or not you have what it takes, the stamina, the strength, the perseverance, that's all coming from you.
Thank you for listening to the Public Health Insight Podcast, your go-to space for informative conversations, inspiring community action. If you enjoy our podcast, be sure to subscribe and leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. See you in the next one.